As Paul and his family arrived at Arakim Palace, their new home, they were greeted by crowds of happy people.
See how they cheer for us and our soldiers, Father.
Paul said.
Not for us,
Explained Duke Leto.
They cheer because the cruel Harkonnen rulers are gone. To prove ourselves better rulers before they cheer for us.
When Paul reached his bedroom, all he could think about was sleep after that long day. As he approached the bed, a poisoned hunter-seeker dart floated silently out of the headboard. Paul stopped in his tracks, knowing that the dart headed toward any movement and attacked. Paul said quietly,
If I move, I'm dead. I must not move until I can grab the hunter-seeker and destroy it.
Just then, the door opened, and Shadout Mapes, a Fremen housekeeper, entered. The dart streaked past Paul toward her. Paul lunged at it, grabbed it, and smashed it against the wall next to the door. Shadout approached Paul and shakily whispered,
I would be dead if not for you, my lord. I must repay the debt by telling you that there is a traitor in your house.
The following morning, Paul and his father flew from the palace in an ornithopter to inspect the spice mining operations in the deep desert.
Will we see any sandworms?
Asked Paul.
Of course.
The ornithopter pilot answered.
The worms defend the spice, and they do not give it up willingly.
Look!
Shouted Paul, pointing.
See how the sand ripples.
A worm is coming. I'll radio for a carryall to come and lift the harvester and his workers to safety.
But as long moments passed, the sandworm grew nearer. The rescue craft failed to arrive.
The Baron must have sabotaged my transmission.
Shouted the Duke.
We must rescue the workers ourselves.
The ornithopter dropped close to the sand, and the workers ran from the harvester and jumped on board just as the sandworm surfaced. It opened its gigantic mouth and, with its huge teeth glistening, swallowed the entire harvester. Later, safely back at the palace, the Duke walked through the corridors, checking security and talking to his men. In one darkened hallway, he suddenly came upon the moaning, half-conscious form of a Fremen servant on the floor. It was Shadout Mapes. She had been stabbed. Duke Leto kneeled beside her and asked,
Who did this?
But before she could answer, she died. At that moment, the Duke heard the engines of the palace's shield generator slow down, then stop.
The generator. The force field that protects the palace has been sabotaged.
He cried out. As he brought his arm up to activate his own body shield, a drugged dart struck him, sending him sprawling to the floor, paralyzed. Leaning against the wall, unable to move, the Duke saw Dr. Yue standing over him.
So, you're the traitor.
He gasped.
You, my friend, my physician.
Why?
Because Baron Harkonnen forced me to.
Dr. Yue answered.
My wife is his prisoner, so I am forced to do his bidding. But we can both revenge ourselves, my lord, and at least save your wife and son.
How? Dr. Yue held out a poisoned tooth.
With this, put it in your mouth, and when the Baron leans close to you to enjoy his triumph, bite down on the tooth. A poison gas will be released, killing you both.
The Duke nodded, and Dr. Yue placed the tooth in his mouth. Yue then took the family ring from the Duke's finger.
For the new Duke,
he said.
For your son, Paul.
By now, the Harkonnen ships were on the ground, and the soldiers were inside the palace. Soon, the palace was in flames. The Duke lay dying and could not prevent Baron Harkonnen from taking Paul and Lady Jessica captive.
Take them into the desert.
Hissed one of the Baron's evil assistants.
The sandworms will make sure their bodies are never found.
The ornithopter carrying the prisoners streaked over the vast wasteland of the Dune Desert. Lady Jessica had been gagged, so she would not be able to use a Bene Gesserit skill, the voice, to order either of the gods to release them. But Lady Jessica had been teaching Paul her skill, and he decided the time had come for him to try it.
Release my mother's gag!
The voice's strength filled the spacecraft. The guard untied the gag then attacked and killed the ornithopter pilot.
Untie my son!
Lady Jessica ordered. The guard did as he was told. Paul immediately overpowered him, then attempted to gain control of the thopter. Despite his efforts, the ornithopter crash-landed in the deep desert of Dune. Before leaving the ship, Paul pulled the survival box out from under a seat. When he discovered Dr. Yue's belongings inside, he understood.
So, Dr. Yue is the traitor. He shall pay for it.
Then Paul found his father's ring and suspected the worst.
We must get out of here.
Tears filled Lady Jessica's eyes, for she knew that her husband was dead, that he would never see the unborn child she was carrying. Back in the palace, the glow of the flames flickered across the Baron's evil face as he leaned over the body of the dying Duke.
So, my arch-enemy now lies helpless at my feet. You shall die soon, Duke Leto Atreides.
The Baron looked over at the shame-ridden face of Dr. Yue.
And you traitor, you shall join your wife in death.
The shame on Yue's face turned to shock as he felt a knife being driven deep between his shoulder blades by the Baron's evil assistant. Turning back to Leto and leaning close, the Baron snarled.
I want your ducal signet ring so I can rule your people. Where is it?
Come closer, and I will tell you,
gasped the Duke.
I can't make out what he is mumbling,
complained the Baron to his assistant.
See if you can.
As the assistant leaned over, the Duke bit down on the poisoned tooth, killing them both instantly. The Duke's revenge has missed its mark. This time. The moment that Duke Leto Atreides took his last breath, his wife and son were preparing to run for their lives across the desert. They knew that the sounds of their footsteps would bring the dreaded sandworms. As his mother wept, Paul took his father's ring and slipped it on his finger. With tears streaming down his cheeks, he cried,
Father! Father! I am Duke now. Am I ready for it? Am I ready for it?
But there was no answer. Only the echo of his voice in the cold desert night. Paul and his mother had escaped with their lives from the clutches of the evil Baron Harkonnen. Would the vast desert lead them to safety? Or did the gigantic sandworms have another fate in store for them?